Well, we have a good group today. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I think almost everybody's here. We had one that we weren't sure about, but we're going to move forward. We'll start with the minutes. I'm glad to see you all. We're going to start with the minutes, the October minutes that you were sent. Are there any corrections to the October minutes? Okay, then I assume they're approved. I wanted to give you a quick overview of what we're going to do today. We're going to do a little bit more on the weatherization outreach discussion because, as you recall, when we left last time, we asked that you come back with some other ideas. Some panel members also expressed an interest in talking about energy efficiency programs in a broader sense. So we're going to start that discussion today. And then you also requested a brief update on broadband, and we will definitely do that before we leave. So let's close the loop on the weatherization discussion that we started at our last meeting. Chastity Hobby, who is KUB's environmental programs lead, is with us today, and she's going to provide an update on the outreach so far for the weatherization, and she's also going to share an update about KUB's meeting with local partners. You'll remember that they shared that they were going to be meeting with some organizations. And there is a new handout at your seat, correct, about weatherization. So Chastity, take it away.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. So as Ms. Ford mentioned, I'm going to give a brief recap on some of the efforts that we have been working on since your last meeting. KUB has been working to identify ways to help increase the pipeline of participants that can receive weatherization services. We've been really looking for ways to get the word out there to customers that are in need and that might be able to benefit from those services since we have resources available for them. So as part of that effort, one of the things that we recently did was meet with some of our local partners, including Dr. Smith's organization, the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, Kent's organization, the Sierra Club, 3KUB, and SEED. And some of those conversations, we were really looking to gather feedback and input on strategies and ways that we can kind of get the word out there to eligible customers. And we also plan to continue meeting with this group to discuss further partnership opportunities and ways that we can help reach the community in that way. In addition to that, we have an internal team at KUB that's been working on identifying outreach opportunities. And some of those efforts have already been underway, and so a few of those things have included distributing information to our agencies that we work with to help get the word out to their clients. As part of that, we have developed a new kind of revamped handout that you all have a copy of. And in developing that handout, we wanted to make sure that it was attention-grabbing, very straightforward and easy to understand for participants who might be interested in learning more about the program, and that it also had a very clear path for individuals to check eligibility and apply online. So we have those materials that we've been distributing, and also welcome you all to share those as you see fit and see opportunities to get the word out there that way. We've also been creating a list of upcoming in-person event opportunities and other places to distribute these materials. And some of the opportunities that we're looking at for that would include maybe an on-site intake event where we can actually accept applications and help answer questions for anybody who might want to understand a little bit more about the program or the process to apply. We're also, as part of that outreach list, looking at opportunities to spread the word via media and the radio and the news. And recently, we actually did an interview with WBIR. It was a very positive interview, and we were able to hear, they interviewed a customer as well. And so just hearing their experience and kind of their positive experience with the program, we hope will help raise awareness to others that might want to participate as well, and just shared some of this information on there too. And so we'll continue to kind of work on that outreach and work with our partners, work internally to identify opportunities, and we would welcome any input and feedback that you all might have on that as well. So I will turn it back over to Ms. Ford.
Thanks, Chastity. Does anybody have any additional suggestions, Stephen?
I have a suggestion, a couple of questions. I have not had a chance to fully download with Brady. We're like passing ships in the night here with some of the things that are going on. But I think, if I understood correctly, that coming out of that meeting, some of the groups put together a proposal. I was unaware that was going to happen, but they brought it to my attention after it was sort of fully along. That's great. Was that useful? Because I did not know. I mean, is that something that y'all are seriously considering that would be advantageous, or did the group overstep its bounds by assuming that there might be some resources there to actually help in the outreach program?
Yes, we're currently reviewing it.
Okay.
And we just met on it this morning to talk about, and we will follow up with the group, and I think in particular follow up with SEED on that. I think there's a lot of good stuff there. There might have been a little bit more beyond the scope of what we were thinking at this time.
Okay.
But we'll provide that feedback. Basically, Liz and I talked this morning. We were going to look at it, maybe make some suggestions to it, and then follow back up with the group.
Okay. Yeah. Because when I saw it, I'm like, whoa! I did not see this. So which is great. I mean, I think it's fabulous. As we are digging into the Inflation Reduction Act and seeing the tremendous amount of financial resources that are going to flow from that, there appears to be a number of options that are going to be advantageous to customers within the KUB area in two ways in particular. One is going to be direct energy efficiency investments that are going to be, there's going to be resources available. My understanding, up to over $8,000 for home retrofits that are going to be able to flow through this federal investment. There is also going to be money for homes that want to go effectively all electric, moving away from fossil gas. And so it would be my suggestion that we consider having this group stay configured and dialoguing with KUB, and then I think ultimately with the sustainability office out of the mayor's office to try to maximize those funds, because some of those funds are going to be competitively distributed, and it is very clear from what we understand that the money is only going to flow to those to go after it, and if you don't go after it, it's not necessarily going to manifest. And so it would seem to me that the more we proactively prepare and then engage in that, the higher probability and potentially the higher amount of resources could flow into this community. And so I don't know if KUB has, I mean, I'm sure you're looking at IRA broadly, but I don't know if you've looked at it specifically in those two areas. And I've mentioned this with Jerry before, we would actually like to see KUB dialing back on their commitment to fossil gas, because I think that is going to ultimately be where everybody's going to have to go. We're going to have to become all electric on everything. This is an opportunity to actually help some lower income customers and others make that transition. I don't know how that competes with your corporate goal, because on one hand you're promoting fossil gas, and then the other hand now we would be actually encouraging people to get off of it, which is the right thing to do for a host of reasons. So how are you all looking at that, and is it possible that we could keep this group assembled to aggressively pursue those resources?
Yeah, I guess first of all, with respect to the Inflation Reduction Act, we are in the process of educating ourselves on that. There's a lot there. We even went to a meeting with the city's group to talk about that, and we're looking at potentially hiring our own consultant to help with that as well. You know, to the extent the information you have or Kent or the other groups have that can provide that to us, we would welcome that, because we're in the process right now of just trying to see what all's out there and what benefits there could be. So,
yeah, if I may, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. I think that's what everybody's doing. We recently had the Tennessee conference. I think some of y'all were there. And I had the opportunity at the end of the conference to speak with our state energy officer, Molly Cripps. And I asked her if she would meet with a bunch of us to help us understand, because it's a mess of stuff. I got some from Gil Huff, the organizer of the conference. I got the first day's slides, and it was called the Flex, how to do the Flex program. And the point of it was that IRA has a huge impact on Flex, how groups can do it, how LPCs can combine to do it. And I know KUB has not yet done a Flex component. So it struck me, and this is what I was talking to Molly about, that it would be great to have a session with her, because all that money for the state goes through the state energy office. So she's the one. And I said, could you educate us? And she said, well, to tell you the truth, I'm educating myself because it's a mess of stuff. It's like, for an environmentalist, it's like, you know, being under an avalanche of ice cream. I mean, it's all this great stuff, but there's so much of it, and how do we handle it? So I said, well, so she said, give me a month. And I said, okay, great. Would you have like a Zoom call with a group of us? And I wasn't necessarily just making it isolated to the Sierra Club, but it could be a group, it could be this group. It could be a group of people who want to understand how to influence the movement of IRA money through the state and how to go after it, as you say, so that we would then use all of our resources, all of the smarts in the room, to find out how best to use that money to green the utility, to maximize energy efficiency. And there's an environmental justice component that's mandated in the Act. So we've got to prioritize help to the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's an important part of the whole thing.
That's
please.
part of hanging, I mean, I think hanging people together and get people motivated, because I think if we can set up a community group, set up a relationship with the utility to go after that, and Gwen, I would hope that the city would get behind this in a big way, because there's, again, a phenomenal amount of money that is available that could go after this. And if there's a real pulling together of doing that, I think those communities that mobilize and go after it are going to benefit the most, and those that lag around and drag their feet and don't jump at the opportunity are going to watch the money go other places. And so there's still a lot to be sorted out, I agree, but there are pieces of it that are starting to become clear now, and there's ways to start to configure so that folks can actually be, you know, kind of first in line to go after this.
I've put that up on our parking lot because we don't want to lose that idea. We can't do that today, but we definitely need to address it as we move forward. What I would like to do is close today the weatherization loop. So are there any other organizations or people that have some ideas? Yes, Tiki.
Thank you. I can't see your last name. I think first name is Chastity, Ms. Harvey. Love the flyer. Simple. Scan through it, get through it. For me, I think it's just a piece. I would like to see the application, to actually see what's in the application of what people fill out. Because that may be something that's pushing people back. Because I read in the eligibility requirements is own or rent a single-family home. Landlord approval is needed if renting. If I were a landlord, I would be all over my folks to apply for this, because those upgrades help my property. I would go find them. But I don't know, is there a conflict here? A person fills it out, they have a landlord, which income do you really need? Because one hand you're saying we need approval from the landlord, and then the other one is saying fill out the application and see if you meet those eligibility requirements. So I don't know if there is a conflict there, but I would love to see the application and what people are really filling out.
Send them after the, we send an email and materials after the meeting.
So for the application, one of the things TVA has done recently to help make this program a more smooth application process is that they've put that online. And so that's where we were able to include the QR code so that anyone who is interested in seeing the concrete details, they can scan that and go look at the actual application right then and there. For the your comment about landlords, I do think renters is definitely an area for us that we can and would like to focus on and serve some additional customers. And it does add just kind of that extra layer of another person to help coordinate and submit information. But the actual eligibility is based on the resident's income and the resident's information. So.
Okay, so now you led me to another question. Thank you. The demographics of your customer base may not know what a QR code is, may not even know how to get online, the internet, et cetera. So you may be missing some folks because they don't know how to do it. So to have the application online for folks that know how to do it is great, but how does someone that doesn't know how to do that get to that application? So just food for thought.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And part of our collaborative work with SACE and SEED and Sierra Club and 3KUB is to look at that and look at those barriers and to help overcome them as well. So that's part of the strategy that we're collaboratively working on to be able to reach people and make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, just briefly, that one of the points about that proposal that we made, mostly led by SEED, but I think we all agree to it, was that the online resource that you describe is great for people who have a computer and Wi-Fi and all of that stuff, but a lot of the community members need to have a conversation with a trusted messenger. That's the point of that particular proposal. So I just want to enter that, and that's in response to what you're saying, Tiki. Thank you.
Are there any other thoughts? Gwen?
Very quickly, and I'm sure that this is probably in the proposal, but having these available, and again, maybe a resource at CAC, because a lot of people come from CAC who potentially would be eligible for this. When you talk about the advertisements, I would hope that WJBE radio station is one of those, because that is the community radio station in that.
These are great suggestions. Anybody? Any more before we move on to energy efficiency? Amy?
Did y'all target any churches? Coming from like a trusted, if you want to deliver it using a trusted resource?
Yeah, we did discuss possibly making these handouts and stuff available for churches. I don't think we have any specific events coming up at churches that we're aware of right now, but we definitely welcome if you all know of specific events to send.
Well, KICMA would be one, and the Faith Leaders Initiative, that would be another one. Matter of fact, the Faith Leaders Initiative, I think it involves KICMA. There's some representation there for KICMA. So Cynthia Finch leads that particular phone call Thursdays at 5 o'clock.
That comes on and talks about resources, and so there would be an opportunity for someone to be able to come on and talk about this program when you guys are ready for that.
Anyone else?
You might want to target some of the companies that have lower paid individuals, such as, government agencies, some of the temp agencies. Just think about on the income eligibility requirements here. A lot of people don't realize how broad of a net that is. I mean, I was surprised when I looked at it. A family of 4 making $55,000 is eligible. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty broad net, so if that was a little more known, that might help.
When I was at St. Mary's, we used to, whenever we found out about a program like this, we would always make sure that the lowest paid employees we had knew about it so that they'd be able to take advantage of it. So all the help, you could probably just go to the book of lists and get the biggest corporations in the area, because they all have low-paid jobs, and it might be a good partnership.
People who work in school cafeterias.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Hospitals. Well, I keep losing this thing. I would hate for the masses not to hear me. I'd want to apologize to Jerry. I meant to acknowledge Jerry early and thank him for taking the time to be with us today. right, unless there are some other suggestions about how KUB can better communicate the weatherization program, we will move on. You've expressed interest in discussing energy efficient programs, so more broadly and for all income levels. So we're going to begin that discussion today. Before that, Chastity is going to share a few highlights about KUB's current initiatives related to both energy efficiency and clean energy. And then I want you to indulge me. I'd like to try a new process for getting your input. We're going to try a small group process when she is finished giving you an update, okay? All right, Chastity.
So I know that we've already had a little bit of discussion regarding energy efficiency more broadly beyond the weatherization programs. And first, I just want to kind of clarify our shift in focus here that the weatherization assistance programs are one way that we support energy efficiency, and those programs help provide direct improvements to customer homes, things like air sealing and window and door replacements that can help reduce energy and heating and cooling loss. And those programs are directly for our low-income customers to help provide those free weatherization resources. Energy efficiency as a whole is a broader term, and it can include weatherization programs, but also extends beyond that to any type of program or action or improvement that's going to help conserve energy. So it may be that businesses are replacing equipment with more efficient equipment, or adjusting processes to help reduce energy usage. And it can also just include behaviors and actions, things like educating the community on how to turn off lights and setting thermostats and that sort of thing. So that's kind of going to be the area that we focus on today. But before we get into that discussion about energy efficiency, I am just going to give high-level overview of some of KUB's overall environmental initiatives, just to give a more complete picture of the things that we're doing for sustainability. So some of those things, as you all know, related to weatherization, we have made an annual budget commitment of $1 million for low-income weatherization assistance programs. And that is in addition to customer contributions from our Rounded Up program, TVA contributions, and other funding sources. On an annual basis, we have enough ongoing funding for about $2 million per year for weatherization, which is enough for around 200 homes. Moving on from weatherization, I know that Gabe also sent you all a message last week to provide an update on the Green Invest program and KUB's purchase and commitment to purchasing renewable energy through that program. There were some challenges that arose that kind of impacted some of our original projects, but as of now, we have increased our initial investment to $3.1 million a year, and that will be enough to purchase 325 megawatts of new to the valley solar power for the program. And that solar power will be on behalf of all KUB customers. In addition, still along the lines of renewable energy, we've also invested $1.4 million to build Knoxville's first community solar site, which is very visible. It's on I-40, right in front of the City of Knoxville's Public Works Complex. And we expect that program will go live early next year, and it will provide customers an opportunity to participate in renewable energy programs. And then we're also going to be evaluating additional options for renewable energy through TVA's Power Supply Flexibility Program, which will allow KUB to generate up to 80 megawatts of power through renewable resources. We're also a proud supporter for the adoption of electric vehicles. KUB was one of the first local power companies in the TVA service territory to introduce an EV incentive. So our rebate provides residential customers with up to $400 to purchase an EV charger for their home. And so far, we have given almost 350 rebates since rolling out the program in 2019. And then also along the lines of EVs, we have recently announced a new investment to build 2 electric vehicle fast charging stations that are part of a TVA program called Fast Charge Tennessee. And from that program, that'll be a $2 million investment, and we're planning to build 1 station in the downtown Knoxville area, 1 station in the Seymour area, and Not
I won't
but,
worry about it.
just in the last couple of weeks, we completed a partnership with TVA on the Community-Centered Growth Pilot. That was a program that went and provided energy efficiency upgrades for for businesses in disadvantaged communities. And so through that program, we were able to identify 11 small businesses, and they received over $700,000 in energy upgrades to help reduce their consumption and improve their facilities. We also recently were in partnership with TVA to offer a smart thermostat program for customers, and through that program, we were able to give 460 smart thermostats to customers, which also included kind of a demand response program to help reduce our energy peaks and sort of even out the load for electricity. And then lastly, KUB also funds a Water Savers program to provide water efficiency improvements and repair homes through CAC. And the goal of that program is to help not only provide those improvements when they're needed. So for example, if a customer has an emergency where a water line breaks, that can be a very costly repair. It can help with that, but it also creates that long-term impact to help reduce their water usage. So I know that was a lot of info, and we're going to actually be distributing a handout that includes a lot of those topics that we just mentioned for your reference. So I think we'll be handing those out as we move into small groups. But hopefully that provides you all a good overview of some of the things that we're looking at and some of the things we're working on. And so,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
so the input that we are seeking this afternoon is specifically related to energy efficiency. And some of the questions we'd like to ask are you aware of other funding sources we could take advantage of to support additional efforts? So I know some of those were discussed just earlier. And then if additional funding becomes available, what kind of efforts do you recommend? And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Ms. Ford to explain how the groups.
Right now, rather than give us any input or discussion, if you have a specific question of chastity, we'll take that, but then we're going to move everything else into small groups. Stephen, you had one?
Yeah, well, I have a couple. Maybe we can go through these fairly rapid. The 325 megawatts with the Solar Invest, that's the Mississippi project? Okay, all that's being sourced out of Mississippi?
No, not all.
What's the breakdown?
There is, most of it is out of Mississippi. There is 55 megawatts in the Tullahoma-Moore County area.
Okay, great. On the community project that y'all are just standing up, what's the capacity of that?
That's a 1 megawatt
One
size.
total just one total okay. And then on the 80 megawatts associated with TVA, so this is basically y'all's attempt to get to what TVA says is 5%, what we calculate is 3%. So is that the total? Is the 80 that you guys, because there's obviously you have some stuff already. You're already doing some self-generation, I assume, or is that so? You've taken advantage of no.
We have not taken on any projects yet that make up that 80 megawatts.
Okay, and 80 megawatts is the amount that would hit the cap that TVA has put on you relative to the LPC self-generation. That is the
correct.
cap that is associated.
You are
okay.
correct, yes.
Okay, and then the fast chargers, what's the KW speed on those? I mean, in other words, are they 150, 250, 350? How fast is fast that y'all are going to be
Yes.
rolling out in that?
There's a couple different options and specifications for the program, but we are looking at doing some of those as 150 kW chargers.
So that would be the top end of the fast charge.
And the minimum would be 125 shared power.
Okay, so you're saying if both are plugged up, it would, because I mean, y'all, I'm sure know this, but Electrify America is now hitting 350. Tesla's, level, let's say, I guess their version 3 superchargers are 250, trending towards 350. So, there is a point at which if you're going to put something in, If you're down at 100, you may not even soon be considered a fast charger anymore, right? So just be aware that the technology is rapidly advancing, and so if you're at this stage of going in, and the reason that matters is cars are going to be set up to handle that, and it's going to make a big difference in the charging experience for people who are showing up expecting a fast charge. And if you're dialed back at 100, 150, when they can go down the street and it's 250 or 350 or they're used to that, then it's going to look like, okay. So just, I mean, you're aware of this, but it's, yeah. I mean, while you're on the front end, you might as well go ahead and, it's just a matter of providing a little more juice, right?
Thank
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question or two here. It should be brief. You're putting new dollars into Green Invest, you say, is that right?
Well, what we're doing is, initially we had 502 megawatts.
Right.
Through four different sites.
I watched the video of the
Okay,
board
okay,
meeting, so
you saw
I
that.
understand that
So-
the Ridgely Farm is out and all
And
that.
that was about 1.6 million we had in our, for annual investment for the 502. As you know, prices have changed, a
Yes.
lot's changed. So now that investment is 3.1 million a year for 325 megawatts.
Right, so there's more money but less megawatts.
That is correct.
Yes, okay, that answers my question.
Okay.
Thank you so much. The home charger rebate thing, thank you for the report, and I'm glad to hear you got 350 out there, it's great. Have you considered some program that would help people who do not have their own separate residence get access to home chargers? Examples would be put it on a light pole near someone's house if they can't get the charger in the house, or just install one at a public place near where people with electric cars. Could residents with electric cars who are renters in multi-unit dwellings get in touch with KUB and say, how about, and ask for a charger to be located? Is there a mechanism in place, and is that publicized?
Yeah. So currently, our program is applicable for individuals who live in a condo or, some kind of multi-family unit. It's meant to be for the resident to apply. So any
Yes.
resident that would want to purchase a charger would be eligible for the rebate as is. But and I know you're aware from a lot of our other group discussions, that whole topic of how to reach additional populations
Yes.
is definitely on everybody's radar,
Good.
and something that we're looking at as well. So we don't, have a concrete answer to what our role is in that and what that solution can be, but definitely something that we're aware of and looking
Great.
at.
And one last thing, have you thought about incentives for the purchase of the car itself?
Currently, we don't have an incentive for
I
the
know.
purchase.
But I'm asking about your thinking, really.
I would say that we're evaluating opportunities for what the rebate's going to look like in the future. So
Okay.
I don't have anything
Okay.
I can share at the moment.
Okay, thanks.
She should be a diplomat.
Kent, Riga Square, I believe, was the first place that brought that to our attention. They had multiple people who wanted chargers.
Oh, okay.
We didn't have a policy that allowed for that, so we responded directly to them, and that
Great.
opened up an opportunity for all
right.
the rest of it.
So you're working with them on figuring out how to,
Yeah, it's already in place. I
Oh,
believe.
great, thank you. Nice to know. Riga Square, great.
All right, while we're talking about energy efficiency, we were discussing earlier that there's going to be federal funding available. There's still a lot of unknowns about that, and clearly you all have to work on that. But in the meantime, we'd like to put you in small groups. And one of the reasons I like small groups is that I think some people actually work better in small groups, and sometimes there's even more creative answers when you break into small groups and come back together. So what we want you to discuss is when this money becomes available, and certainly if you have any ideas about sources, that would be a good thing to talk about. But when it is available, how would you suggest KUB use potential new funding in terms of energy efficiency, particularly beyond the scope of home weatherization? And in each group, you're going to be in 3 different rooms. You'll have a flip chart. You'll have markers. I'd like you to select a recorder. I'd like you to select a spokesperson who's going to come back and report out your ideas to the group. It's a brainstorming session. All ideas are good ideas. And we have about 30 minutes. You'll have about 30 minutes in your groups. So here are your groups. The first one is Stephen, Kent, and Mark. and you all will go the end of the hall, which is the auditorium. Second is Terry, Amy, Tim, and Gwen, and you'll go right next door. There's another conference room over here. And then Tiki, Christina, and David, you will stay right here. 3 KUB staff members are going to help you. One will be in each group as a resource person. Chastity will be in one group, and Liz Hanna, who's the managership, will be in one, and Harley Bryant, our customer support supervisor, will be in the other. So take off and bring us back lots of good ideas. Liz, do you want to show the other 2 groups where they go? going to start with Christina's group because you are going to be putting your stuff on top of hers. Okay. So are we ready to listen to group number 1? And you just press this. There you go.
All right. All right, the first thing we talked about was expanding residential efficiency incentives, so just covering more things, and increasing rebates. Let's see, rebates best practices. Okay, so we were talking about some of the hurdles to doing the rebate program that for some people it's really hard to do the full upfront cost. So finding ways, and also there may be a hurdle to getting that reimbursement in a timely manner. Anyway, finding ways to maybe split up the cost of that, or getting the rebates to customers more quickly, making that more accessible. Education, so we heard that there have been plenty of social media campaigns for educating on energy usage best practices, but perhaps specifically providing information that's like for however long your light is left on, here's a dollar impact, or some kind of tangible, a leaky faucet causes on average this much increase to your bill, or something like that. That's a little bit more tangible and relatable to people. Bringing back the workshops. I know KUB has done workshops, maybe being a little bit more strategic about where and how to partner with community organizations or something to make those, bring those workshops to people who wouldn't otherwise know about them. Perhaps starting a referral process. So we identified that some people maybe are uncomfortable with sharing sensitive information in the application for weatherization. So if they don't want to share information that the application asks for and that's preventing them from applying, maybe there would be some kind of referral process, trusted community sources that can, or just some kind of alternate application for these people. Perhaps provide a list of approved or recommended contractors to do energy upgrades, and this is really more for people who have the capacity to upgrade their home or do weatherization, but don't know how to go about it, providing resources for them, or can't find a quality contractor. So business, workplace business charger and electric vehicle charging incentives, and then build relationships. I think that's just, again, trying to reach those people that are a bit harder to reach just through social media. So I think that's it.
Great. Does anybody have any questions of Christina and her group?
Just one little thing. The build relationships thing is the thing that stood out to me when I looked at your list there, and I think it's really important. I remember, I don't know, maybe it was a long time ago, but I read an article that said that people actually wanted to have a good relationship with their utility. And they wanted to trust their utility. So building a relationship of trust between consumers and utilities seems to be a great goal to try for.
Excellent. Thank you, Christina. Kent, you want to go next?
Yes.
Kent, can you bring your sheet up and put it
I'll
on
bring
top
my
of that
sheet
one?
up there.
Okay. Is it a Post-it? Well, you're a doctor, right?
Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, I guess so, yeah. Okay, yeah. So, well, we started talking first about improving all the housing stock, because in previous meetings we talked about the fact that some people that got removed from KUB's list got removed because they increased their income and no longer qualified. But the house was still inefficient and still there. So we should develop a spreadsheet of inefficient housing stock, no matter the income of people living in it. Not that we want to de-emphasize helping low-income people first, that's a good idea, but that so we know, because we live in some of the most inefficient housing stock in the country here in this region. KUB's dollars, remind me, Steve, why did you write that there? I don't remember. Oh, okay, yeah, right.
So this gets into the fact that there's going to be dollars that KUB
two
has
sources of dollars, yeah.
KUB has earmarked dollars for low income, low to moderate income, and then there's going to be this additional funding that's coming from IRA.
Right.
So therefore, if we looked at profiling housing stock, it may be that some of the housing stock would be targetable through KUB's low and moderate income, but then there could be some housing stock that would be available to be targeted through the IRA money. So if you look at neighborhoods that are known to have poor housing stock and went in and did some initial evaluation, blow door tests and other things like that, you would then develop a profile for that neighborhood, and then you could potentially use different pots of money to selectively target it so that you had an overall upgrade of the housing stock.
What he said, right. And also, we talked about having greenhouse gas reduction goals for the program, so that when people participated in an energy efficiency program, they could see the result in terms of climate and greenhouse gas reductions, so that they would know how they were helping others besides themselves. So greenhouse gas reduction goals could be amount of greenhouse gases eliminated. It could also be amount of energy consumption reduced. There are two different ways to do that. Also, we talked a lot about the time of use system, and we asked Liz how many people were on the system. And I think, Liz, you said 100 residential and then 300. Worse than I thought, right. So the participation in the time of use program is actually very low. So we would like to increase that, and one of the suggestions made would be to have a program whereby some of the initial users of the time of use program could come to a company meeting and tell people about their experience. I use the time of use program, it's been helpful for me. So I'm sure there must be other people, and you.
Yeah, let me add to that a little bit. So we were looking at the greenhouse gas reductions, energy demand reductions, which obviously mean dollars in the individual homeowner's pocket. But then by having a focus on time of use and making a broader understanding within the community that if KUB writ large reduces its peak demand, there's advantages financially for the whole system. That's because TVA is hitting you associated with your demand of use. So you're targeting these particular hours, and it would be useful to know, okay, what is your goal for demand reduction through time of use, and then be able to track through community feedback how KUB is making progress as a community goal to get that demand charge down through time of use, and then you get sort of a community effort buy-in, and because our understanding is, and again I don't know how the dollars would flow, but if you were to hit certain metrics in offsetting that demand charge, there should be some savings that is available across the system. And obviously the larger industrial customers and everybody are pinging that. So what the three checks there are, you can have community goals on greenhouse gas reductions, you can have community goals on overall energy reduction, but specific goals for homeowners on their energy reduction, which means dollars in their pocket, And we can look at demand reduction, which then has a certain amount. That way, most people don't understand why you're doing time of use, because most people don't understand demand charges. And if there's a way that we can come up with some creative way to get community involvement and understanding why, and this is going to be even more important when people start driving electric cars, because you're going to want to keep people off charging their electric cars when you're in those demand periods, right? So we're going to have to up the education level broadly for why demand matters as we move towards electrify everything, right? So those were the three metrics.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that. And I think the point is there's a certain amount of charge that KUB has to pay to TVA based on the peak demand during the year. Is that not right? So if we reduce that charge, then we can tell people who participated in the program, this is how much money we saved. And we also talked about looking at energy efficiency programs for different income groups, just like we talked about here. And how could we help people who are not necessarily low income also access some of this money, maybe IRA money. So it's not necessarily KUB giving money to rich people to be more energy efficient, but helping the federal government connect with people who could really use it. And the final thing we talked about was energy efficiency for schools. Schools are big energy users, and they could save a lot of money. I mentioned a program that I knew about in LA where a retired teacher went in, worked with a student green group, and they went around monitoring the classes, and if there was a bright window on one side of the classroom, they just turned out off the rows of lights on that side of the classroom. Everybody still had plenty of light, but the school ended up saving 20% on their utility bill. And so that really helped the school's budget, and it also helped students participate in the program and educate themselves as well. So I think that's basically it. Did I forget anything?
Yeah,
I think we'd mentioned churches as well, possibly.
Yeah, that's right. Churches are good candidates for.
People are not using spaces, why are we heating and
Right,
cooling?
right. Churches are there, but they use the space only a few times a week, so perhaps they could participate in a time of use program and lower their utility bills as well.
The only other thing, Ken, on the feedback, and hopefully Liz didn't violate any confidentiality things by sharing this information with us, but our understanding is that y'all are going to be evaluating the pilot program for time of use up and pulling some folks together to look at it. We were suggesting that as part of that evaluation, you may want to tap some folks that are actually in the program to come in and actually dialogue with what's good and bad about it, and sort of get some like real-time feedback from people who are in the program, so that they can talk about sort of how their experience has been.
Great. Does anybody have any questions of Kent and his group?
No, I'm just going to go home and chill with family during this time of day. You need to stay on this side of the house because we got lights. That's a good idea, though. I think I'm going to do that.
Vacuum cleaners, toasters.
Yeah, I got that. Just,
Right.
yeah, there you go. Now I'm trying to figure out how to do it with heat, so we'll figure that
Good
one
idea.
out.
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay, thank you, Kent.
Thank you. Next.
Terry, I see you have the sheet. I assume you're the spokesperson. Oh, Amy's the talker. Okay. I thought Amy threw off that responsibility.
Oh, okay, so is this working? Can you hear me? Okay. We talked about partnershipping with KCDC, mainly just, and you guys need to help me, fill me in if I miss anything. Gwen mentioned that there's a database of tenants, and that we could reach out to them to educate them on the program, since most of their tenants would probably qualify under this program. Also, just having the information there so that when someone who comes in who's wanting to apply for a Section 8 voucher can be given this information while they're waiting to try to be placed with someplace, to be connected with some cost-saving opportunities for them that would maybe potentially reduce their monthly disbursements, and help out with rent and making their bills. The TVA Energy Right programs, and Terry, you may want to elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, just letting your commercial and industrial customers know that the Energy Right program is back. to a point. So, you know, I know we actually found out about it from TVA, just to be honest about it. So if you get that word out to your customers a little better.
Yeah. Also, we kind of troubleshooted the fact that, you know, we're focusing so much on electricity, but gas and water is also another energy saving mechanism. And I actually had experience recently with I had a leak in my front yard, and I was very complimentary of KUB, who reached out to me, notified me of the leak. We got it fixed. I was losing 22 gallons a day. I just think that that's, you know, one of those things that I really appreciated, and I think that's a great thing that y'all are doing. And again, we just, you know, kind of talked about the fact that you have so many great opportunities. It's just connecting with the people, like myself and Gwen and Terry. We were all very appreciative, but we realized that we ourselves haven't done the audit. We haven't signed up for the email notification, all of these things, and it's just, you know, not that you have great programs, it's just a way of connecting them, and that's the real challenge, and that's it.
Thank you. Any questions of Amy and her group? Thank you, ma'am. Well, I think these were a lot of great ideas, which...
I'm sorry, I do have a question for Amy and her group. Amy, on the first thing there, you said something about tenants. And I didn't quite get what you're suggesting.
The landlords, I'm sorry, the people who actually own the property, renting them out and receiving the Section 8 vouchers, that they could share that information with the people that are living in their property.
Right, oh,
to
okay.
apply for it.
Okay.
But then also for tenants, I mean, we had a tenant who always complained about her utility bill, but in actuality, she was very cold-natured, so she'd have her heat on 80 in the winter.
Right.
And then wonder why the bills were so high and everything. But again, if that was a home that needed some additional energy efficiency mechanisms done, this program would have been excellent for that. So I think also educating the tenants about, hey, you can also call KUB and ask for a home audit. You're the tenant there. You can also look at, hey, if they are identifying a lot of things, get with the landlord and participate or see what they're eligible for in the program in KUB.
Yeah, that's a good point. I remember my friend Jessica Goodhart said, energy efficiency is not conservation. Efficiency is when you fix the shell of your house so it doesn't leak temperature. But conservation is when you change your behavior. And I think you're hitting on that with the story about your tenant there. It's a good point.
How much of this, how much of this information is given out to new accounts? Meaning residential, let's put that in the box, that when they show up and they want to open up a new account, how much of this information do they get up front? And then possibly folks that walk in to pay their bill, how much of this information do they get? That's to tap into that source.
So I know that, I guess two kind of parts to your question. At our in-person centers, we do try to keep handouts and that sort of thing, resources, rack cards available if people are interested. And then as far as our direct communications with customers, most of those are done through things like our bill stuffers, newsletters, and so it's typically happening periodically throughout the year instead of just a one-time upfront kind of outreach.
Liz takes copious notes, as you know, but if she has any questions about any of these great ideas, I know she'll contact you. We were going to do a little fuller update on broadband, but we are kind of at the end of the day. So, Jamie, do you just want to say a quick couple of things?
Yeah, I just want to say things are continuing to go very well. Hopefully you've seen some of our commercials on TV here lately. We also had a nice update article in the News Sentinel along with an op-ed from Gabe this past weekend, so if you didn't see those, feel free to check those out. You'll start to see other marketing outreach going out, literally everything from billboards to we've got salespeople walking a couple neighborhoods this afternoon. So we're adding customers by the dozens every day. It continues to go very well. We've got a service available in what we call it by substation, so I might have to geographically orientate you. Again, our first area was over in our Mohawk area. Think Riverside Drive, Dandridge, Martin Luther King area was our first area we went live in. We are now expanding in Arlington, in that area, Washington Drive over in that area, and then we'll soon move over into Cumberland Estates, our Dolltown area, we call it, off Western Avenue. Hearing a lot of great feedback. Right now, we're just offering internet service. We're hopeful that by the first of the year, our TV and phone product will be available. Part of the assistance that's available to our customers, we've talked a lot about that, both the ACP, the Affordable Connectivity Program, it's late in the day, sorry, that allows all customers who meet some of the income requirements that we were talking about today get $30 off of their service. That's provider agnostic. We've been approved to be in that program. As you imagine, the wheels of approval in the federal government are a little slow, and so we're working on administrative programs to get that instituted. Also, we continue to work with local government officials and community partners on our student low-income internet program. That continues to gain steam, but we hope to pilot that hopefully in one of the schools in the areas that we're serving here, hopefully early 23. So that continues to do well too. We've also received $15 million in grants. You may have seen that in the news from the state of Tennessee Department of Economic Development. That'll help us expand in those rural areas that are very underserved in Granger, Union, Sevier, and Jefferson County. So we're very excited about that. That moves them up on the schedule. We have about 3 years to complete that in those areas. So I know Mr. Myers and his constituents specifically up there are excited about that, and we're excited to get up there and serve those folks. But our customers are giving us great feedback. We stay in dialogue with them, so they've been very helpful to kind of help us tune and work the kinks out. But things continue to go very well, and we look forward to discussions down the road with any questions y'all may have about our efforts. Yes, sir.
In the areas that you've gone into, have you met or exceeded the metric of signups that you anticipated as far?
Still really early in that
Okay.
regard. So what we understand as far as the uptake on that is awareness is low. And so a lot of times, honestly, some of our best outreach have been the yard signs in the areas in which our customers get it. And we stick a KUB, this house connected to KUB fiber, the next thing you know, the street explodes in that particular regard. But there is just like any new product, there is an opportunity where, people having to take time to get connected and make that appointment. So what I'm saying is it's been a slow uptake,
Okay.
but we're still, it's not bucking a trend that we expected.
And then how all in making available timelines for other neighborhoods?
Thank you. That is actually a great segue that I forgot to mention. So once we got the grants, we kind of went into a little more detailed planning. We went ahead and cast the net and the phases for the entire build out. Okay. So if you go on KUB.org to our fiber finder, type in your address, you'll see which phase you're in, and it'll try to kind of put blocks around about a 2-year period. If it's available, it'll tell you you're available. If you're in our phase 2 effort, it'll tell that, and then phase 3 as well, and it kind of puts years around that effort. We're going to work hard to try to expedite that as much as we can. Honestly, that's the number one thing we get asked is, when is it, and hurry up.
Yeah.
And so it's just, we've got 5,000 miles of fiber to lay, and it just takes some time. So.
Because it's been interesting since y'all have announced, I have noticed a marked uptick in the private companies front-running what you guys are doing as far as now coming in and trying to solicit and upgrade their service ahead of it, which is
when we spoke with City Council, that's right, we spoke with City Council. We think competition is good, and it definitely, our citizens in Knoxville are benefiting from that. And so get asked a lot of questions of, when are you getting to me, because I'm going to decide if I'm going to sign this deal or not. And so I'd encourage folks to look at that map and kind of see what our thoughts are before they make a business decision on that. But no, it's been a good thing for Knoxville, and we're really excited about serving folks. So it's been a lot of fun.
Thanks, Jamie. I should have said that Jamie's the Vice President of Fiber and Chief Technology Officer, so he knows everything there is to know about
I wouldn't go that far.
As we discussed last time, we will not have a meeting in December because of the holidays. So the next meeting is going to be January 5th at 3 o'clock. Because KUB is launching the new community solar program in January or February, we thought it would be timely to take you out there and see that at our next meeting. That doesn't mean we can't discuss some other things, but that would be the main focus of our meeting. So we'll meet at the City of Knoxville's Public Works facility where the project's actually located, and KUB will send you the directions in case some of you don't know where that is. Since we have no registered speakers, anybody else have any comment they need to make before we adjourn?
Just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
January the 5th. That's our regular meeting date.
Did I dream this, or did Aaron Gill communicate that there is a potential timing snafu going on between flipping the switch on the community solar and when you can actually get some sort of financial credit for it, and that you're trying to figure out the timing of when you can flip that on?
We talked about the IRA, our preliminary research. One thing we think we do know, hopefully, is that in order to, let's just talk about the community solar project for right now, that in order for us to be eligible to get that 30% direct payment credit, whatever you want to call it, from the federal government, it doesn't need to go in service prior to January 1st of 23. So I mean, is that, I don't know if you're,
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted, so y'all have verified that. So technically, you're not going to commission the system until New Year's Day.
well, thinking that we could get, $300,000 to $400,000 in savings.
Yeah,
which
yeah,
could-
no,
which
no,
could
no,
help
I
the-
get it, I
yeah.
get it. I just wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah.
And just to add, pushing the in-service date will add some testing time and billing time and whatnot for the program. So it'll shift the program past the beginning of the year as well.
I think it's going to be an exciting meeting in January, so I hope that all of you will be able to attend and that those who aren't here today will as well. Yes, I said exciting. It's time to have exciting meetings.
Let me close with one comment, please, if I might. This is my last meeting. I roll off the board at the end of in December, so I just wanted to tell you this. We've really learned a lot from all of you, and the board is taking account of the kinds of things that you've been educating us on. We take it seriously, and I'm grateful for your service, and so I wish you all well.
We're grateful for yours, Gary. And with that, we are adjourned.